your Comedy Minute. I have a very special young man with me today. Slack Daddy from Charleston, West Virginia is with me. Slack Daddy, how are you?
Fantastic. Thank you for calling me a young man. I haven't been called that in a long time.
Well, you're younger than I am, Slack Daddy. Before we started this recording, I was telling you that I've been to Charleston, West Virginia many, many times.
Yeah, I'm born and bred.
That was gonna be my question. Were you born and raised in Charleston?
I've lived in other places, but there's this girl brought me back home. But I
Yeah.
was in Texas, Louisiana, Chicago area.
Okay. And West Virginia, home sweet home, right?
Home sweet home. Yeah.
Yeah, and you call yourself the Appalachian Adonis,
Yes,
and also have here comedian storyteller.
that is true. I come from a long line of storytellers. Yeah, I
Right.
think tell jokes. That's part of it.
Well, I don't know if you know this, if you got a chance to look at some of the other stuff. I had the Carolina storyteller on, Jonathan Phoenix, and Jonathan went into the whole thing about storytelling that there's truth, and then you embellish a little bit and you do this and that. Is that the way you do the same thing?
You know, sometimes, but more than often than not, they say, um, you hear people say you can't make this up or truth is
Right, right,
stranger than fiction. So, a lot of times you tell the truth, nobody's going to believe it.
right, right. Well, with him, it was more the lore of like his grandmother, and storytelling was back in the day, the way people communicated and things like that. Whereas yours, you're saying that yours are comedy stories that you tell that are comedy bits.
Right. I'll talk a lot about my childhood, and there's
Okay.
some from my childhood that sound like things I've created, but they're really not.
Do you
For
want do you
example,
want to do you want to tell the people a little bit, because I'm go ahead.
yes, yes. So, like when I was a kid growing up, my family's next door neighbors on the right hand side of the house lived a preacher. On the left hand side of the house lived a rabbi. Perfect setup for a joke. A
Yeah.
preacher, a rabbi, blacked out here in the front yard. Nobody believes that, but that was the truth. We were surrounded by the God Squad.
The God
My
Squad.
my grandparents' names were Dorothy and Oz. Oz was short for Oswald. Everybody called him Oz. Nobody believes that.
Right.
Uh, their son, my uncle Tim, he was Oswald Jr. because once you go by Tim, if your name was Oswald Jr., Oswald is in Lee Harvey Oswald. He
Yeah.
married Nancy, whose maiden name is Booth, as in John Wilkes Booth. And the joke I always put in is, "We're so happy my cousin never grew up to shoot the president."
Right, right.
But you have these things in life that
Sure.
everybody has them.
Yeah, comedy works best when it's authentic, and like for me, my some of my favorite stories are, me getting into it with somebody and then doing the comedy bit about it.
Right. And there are some things, I just don't I have an identical twin brother. He
Right.
is 100 pounds lighter than me. And so
Huh.
the I say is we look like a Slim Fast before and after ad. You know, it's ridiculous, but it's the truth. I do
Believe it or
have
not,
not.
I have a friend. I have a friend here in York, Pennsylvania, that him and his brother are the same. He's rail thin and his brother's heavy, and they're identical twins.
Yeah, and my brother and I are just we've always been different. We've always had different personalities.
Yeah,
Nothing's wrong with the way he is, but he's a
right,
very he's a very serious individual.
right. And you're more.
Right.
Well, I got to be honest, okay, because I believe in total transparency. I have a lot of people that are, wanting to come on the show, and I'm blessed, I'm thankful, and they keep coming, and I'm thankful. And there's some times that I pick someone like the guy that I aired last night, Mook Maine. I saw 717 area code. He gave me his phone number. And I thought, well, heck, I'm in 717 area code. So I picked him. I said, okay. Well, if you don't know why I picked you, I'm about to tell you why I picked you.
Okay.
You I watched some of your stuff, and you worked at law enforcement as a civilian for law enforcement, and you talked about one of the stories about a guy that do you know what I'm talking about here?
Nativity scene.
What's that?
The nativity scene.
Well,
I
it was about the cops telling him to put his hands up. Go ahead and
yeah,
tell it like you did on it, and I'll explain why.
one of the things I did is I took the deputy's notes and wrote them up into the criminal reports.
Right.
And this sounds like a joke. It was a true story. And it was my favorite one I wrote there. It was a nativity scene.
Right.
And the deputy wrote down. So I came up to the perk and I told him to put his hands up in the air and back away from the sheep.
Right.
And it was one of those things you're like, thank you, God, for giving me this job.
Well, now I want you to hold on to something. I want you to take your hands and hold on to something. The reason I picked you was because I saw that clip, and here in York, Pennsylvania, when I was a kid growing up, a man got arrested down at the York Fair for having sex with a sheep. And I said to myself, Slack Daddy and I got to get together. We got to talk about the sheep. I can't make it up that good. I swear to you, I'm telling you the truth.
I tell 3 jokes about jobs I've had,
Go ahead.
and 2 are true stories.
Okay, go ahead.
But the other one that's a true story, I worked for
Hey, listen, let me just give you a piece of advice for your comedy minute. Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Oh, understand, completely understand. The other true story is working for an electric company, setting up work orders, and I have to ask the same questions.
Right.
So, are there any special driving directions to get there?
Right.
And they say, no, you find it through GPS. Is
Right.
there a lock around your property? It'll be unlocked for y'all. And I
Right.
have to any aggressive animals. So I'm talking to this guy. He has no sense of humor in his voice, no sense of irony. He goes, we got a real disagreeable duck in the front yard. That made my day. I wanted to quit work, start a band called the Disagreeable Ducks. And I didn't know by that. Is that duck going to go and attack our workers or just run out and argue politics and religion with them? But now the one made up.
Just to finish up, did you ever follow up to see that the person that went out, had a problem with the duck?
No problems with the duck was reported.
No problems with the duck were reported.
So I'm going to
Now,
take
you remember I told you to hold on to something, okay? I want you to hold on to something again. It's just the way life works here. I'm telling you.
Okay.
I had a guy on the show that had a duck. You'll have to go back and look over it. Boris Boshinov and his duck. He came on and we did about 20 minutes with his duck.
20 minutes with a duck?
At the duck was starting to get pissed off at the end, so he started feeding it tomatoes because it ate little cherry tomatoes, and that's the highlight of the show.
So it wasn't just telling jokes about the duck for 20 minutes.
No. Well, here, okay. I don't want to use up our time, but what happened was he was hiking with his buddy, his female friend, and literally out of the sky dropped this baby duck. It was, just as big as, this big, in his hand. And he thinks that like a bird was going to eat it or whatever, but dropped it. So now he's got this baby duck. And he tried looking for the mother and, for any. So he took the duck. 6 years later, the duck is. I'm not lying. And my buddy, his buddy's identical twin, he had a duck when he was a kid.
Oh, okay.
I'm telling you, I knew you and I were like this, peas and carrots.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Well, let's move on. Let's get off with the nonsense. I apologize. When did you start doing comedy?
I had always entertained it, as far back grade school, but about 20 years ago, I did my first bit.
Okay.
And then a few years later, started having children. And so that kind of got on the back burner for about a dozen years.
Right.
And start doing it again. And that was interfering with taking my kids places.
Right.
Now I'm in grad school and my son's in college. So I've been doing this again for about 2 years now.
Okay. Well, and you call yourself the Slack Daddy or Slack Daddy, but you also, because you mentioned to me, you would like to promote the Gospel of Slack Daddy, which is a Facebook page and also a YouTube page.
Right.
Okay. Now, is this a religious venture?
No, it's not. It's not.
I had a feeling. I'm poking fun with you.
I understand. No.
The gospel. Let's hear a little gospel of Slack Daddy if you can.
Gospel of Slack Daddy. There shall be no other Slack Daddies before me.
Right.
No,
and there'll be no other Slack Daddies after you either.
I don't know. I have some.
Yeah, there could be. It could be somebody you inspire somebody to be the next Slack Daddy.
I have a cousin who calls himself Slack Dog.
Okay.
But no, I never had a nickname. And then after I graduated from college, this teenager who's working part-time at this place started calling me Slack Daddy. And it has followed me. Everybody I worked with started calling me Slack Daddy.
Did it have to do with your work effort, your work ethic?
No, but that's a good question because the definition of Slack Daddies, in the Urban Dictionary, is the king of lazy people.
Yeah, that's what. In other words, most people would know the term slacker. Someone that's a slacker. Everyone's busting their butt, and the slacker's over there sitting around eating sandwiches.
Right. No, back in 1993, 94, there was these two little kids, they were rap act, Crisscross.
I remember the Crisscross.
Called Jump.
I remember it.
Yeah, some of the lyrics were Mac Daddy make you jump, jump. And this kid, Chris Larzo, started coming up saying, Slack Daddy make you jump, jump.
And that's how you...
Yeah, and then it just followed me.
Okay.
I became Daddy.
And now it's Gospel of Slack Daddy. Are there other, like a 10 Commandments of Slack Daddy or?
No. When I was in high school, I took a trip to New York City, and there's a play called The Gospel of Vic.
Okay.
And I don't know what the play was about, but that always stuck with me. And so then when I started putting this together, I thought the Gospel of Slack Daddy. I just combined that memory and this name, and it just
And it's and so that's, in other words, and I get it. I'm teasing you, but it's your comedy bits would be the Gospel of Slack Daddy. When you get up there and you tell them a story or your views on things.
right. And I have T-shirts that underneath they'll have Slack Daddy. He's one hell of a fine man, you
Do
know.
you, do you Oh, okay. So do you sell shirts at your shows?
No, I give those away. I used to have my own website,
Okay.
thegospellikedaddy.com, and maybe I'll start that
Okay.
back up.
Right. Okay.
But I had a friend who did T-shirts, and he made a bunch out for me, and I gave them away as promotions.
That brings me to my next question, Slack Daddy. So now that you're back in 2 years in, do you plan on doing this, for, to the end? I mean, because for me, in other words, I plan on doing this. I'm 62. I'll be 62 in August, and I'm going to do this as long as people will have me. As long as people keep coming on the show, I want to keep doing it.
Yeah, that's the way I look at it. I'm 56. I
Okay.
actually have a 5-year plan, so to speak, but I'm not
Okay.
limited to 5 years.
Okay.
Um, this year started off, I thought, well, do 2 things a month, and it's turned into 2 things a week.
Okay.
So
Good. Good.
the opportunities have just really amazed me. I've had, and I'm having a lot of fun.
That's great. Do you feel like the material is getting better, from your first gig to now 2 years later? Because I'm going to forget that first part. Let's just go with the last 2 years. Do you feel like now your material is getting better? It's easier for you to perform?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
If I think about the first 2 shows when I started back up, and I tape everything, they're just painful to watch.
Yeah.
But I mean, the more I don't care if you're performing music or public speaking or doing comedy, you find your rhythm.
Okay.
Get you get your courage and your
Yeah.
comfortability, and so yeah, it's
Do you have a favorite bit you want to do? Do a bit. Do one of your favorite bits that you're doing these days.
okay. So my other job, I used to work for a public defender's office, and
Okay.
there are really, man, dregs of humanity for clients. There was this one guy that we had, and among many other things, he would make wooden mannequins of little boys and put them in lewd poses. He was a Geppettophile.
I wondered where you were going with that. Go ahead.
Going
Go
with
ahead. Do
that,
another one.
when I was in third grade, remind you, I have a twin brother. When I was in third grade, there's this old girl I'd eat lunch with, and she told me one day she was a mistake. I didn't know what she meant by that. I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "I was in an accident. My parents didn't mean to have me. I just happened." That really bothered me. I came home and asked my mom. I said, "Mom, did you and Dad mean to have me?" And she looked at me and said, "We meant to have your brother." So that woman, if she would have had an abortion, it'd been like killing 2 birds with one coat hanger.
Oh God. Golly. I can't believe it. Slack Daddy, you're amazing me.
Well, thank
You got more dark stuff. I love dark comedy. I love dark humor.
It's funny. I was in a pizza place in Point Pleasant, West Virginia last night, and it was there were about four of us, and the rules were it had to be clean
Right.
and did all clean bits. And really, that got me pumped because I do the dark jokes, I can do the dirty jokes people are gonna laugh at.
Yeah.
But if you could tell a joke that captures the human condition,
Yeah.
that came from a 3-year-old boy to a 90-year-old woman
Yeah.
could relate to and get a laugh.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's that
It's
we're the
more the
real.
way you're leaning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you gotta be true. I just got done doing one of these earlier, and a comedian named Kathy Ladman, who was on the Tonight Show, Johnny Carson, Curb Your Enthusiasm, very, very well respected comedian, gave me that bit of advice, 3 years ago, that be true to who you are. If that's the way you want to do it, you feel that you like doing, stuff that make people, yeah. And I have, it's cost me a lot of friends and stuff because I do, a lot of dark stuff, but I enjoy doing it, and I'm not going to change. That's why I tell people when they come on here, they can say anything they want to say because there ain't anything going to shock me.
Well, the Geppettophile joke
Yeah.
actually got banned from two places, which
Yeah.
bothered me at first, but then I found it kind of humorous because the guys who got upset about, fellow comedians who got upset about, went on to tell jokes about priests and little kids.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's
I just
yeah,
told someone earlier, I was talking about social media and stuff, where I got kicked off Facebook 9 times in 1 year, and they finally just took down my page. And I put a lot of work into it. I was upset about it, but now, I mean, I kind of look back on it and laugh. And I've been banned from YouTube for first 3 days and then 7 days, and it's like, and I don't, believe me when I tell you, I don't do anything that I'm trying to offend somebody or hurt somebody. In both cases, it wasn't even my material. It was a blooper reel that I put together off of stuff I got off the internet
right.
that I enjoyed doing them, and it showed bodily harm. So YouTube said you're banned for 3 days or whatever because you showed bodily harm. It's like, my God, all the blooper reels show bodily harm.
Well, and you think about it, it's like Lenny Bruce. How many things did he get banned from?
Yeah,
Guilford Godfrey lost that
yeah,
Affleck
yeah.
endorsement. And, if in any way, shape, or form I could compare myself to Lenny Bruce or Guilford Godfrey, then
Yeah.
I'm doing.
Well, I'll tell you what, both those are, I mean, because, and it's funny because when you, like, and I don't think there are, like, I don't have any Jewish or, Hitler jokes. I don't think I have any abortion jokes. I love a good rape joke. No, I'm kidding. There's no rape joke. There's, in other words, there's certain things that I don't, but I mean, the two with one coat hanger, man, that's abortion. And then you got, but I have done pedophile jokes. And usually what happens is just like you're a pedophile, I lose 100 subscribers and people will tell me what an asshole I am.
Right. And, in no way am I
Yeah,
endorsing
condoning it. You
it.
just made a joke. Yeah.
It's just a play on words.
Yeah, exactly. Great play on words too.
And I'm not endorsing abortion either. It was,
Right. It's just a joke.
and there's jokes I don't say.
Yeah.
I have a niece with Down syndrome. I have a nephew with autism, so
Right.
I make fun of special needs kids. Do I get upset if other people tell that type of joke? No, no, I don't.
Right.
I just don't make that. I don't make race jokes.
Yeah, I don't
Uh,
do I don't do any race or political or any of that.
I'm not Jewish. but as I said, I live next door to a rabbi. I have
Yeah,
uh,
right.
friends who are Jewish, so I don't make Jewish jokes. Now, does that mean I don't laugh at other people?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
You know, I
No,
could
it's
say,
just that what you're touching on, Slack Daddy, is that the world today we're living in, it's not like Archie Bunker when we were growing up, where he went after all races and all. Oh, Jesus, there, listen here, he did there. You know, uh, whether sticks and stones may break my bones, but you are one dumb Pollock. You know, he went after it. He went after every, and I grew up on that. Or Don Rickles, who, went after, Don Rickles was, man, he went after everybody.
oh,
And nowadays, you couldn't get away with that.
when he was on stage,
Who, Don Rickles?
yeah, apparently he was a sweetheart to everybody.
Oh, yeah,
But
yeah,
then he
yeah,
yelled,
yeah.
"No prisoners."
Yeah, yeah. Well, I just had a guy on not too long ago, Joe Scrocca, who addressed that when he gets up on stage, that's a character. That's not who Joe Scrocca is when you meet me off camera, off stage. When I'm on stage, I'll tell stories about when I first met a prostitute and this and that. But when you meet, and I can tell when you meet Joe out, he's not like that. But up on stage, you have to kind of build that persona and kind of bigger than life.
It is a persona. I
Yeah.
don't dress like this during my day job.
Sure.
Uh, People do call me Slack Daddy, but the Slack Daddy in comedy is a persona.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Well, cool. Well, listen, we don't have a lot of time left. We got cut a little short. So I want to make sure we cover everything. The Gospel of Slack Daddy on Facebook, YouTube. Do you do Instagram or TikTok? Do you do either of those?
I do not, although I will soon have.
Yeah, as you get your web page and get everything going, I would recommend at least Instagram. I don't know about TikTok. I don't do TikTok, but that's up to you. But I would recommend it just because, the more that you have out there, the more, let's call it lines in the water, the more you have chance of people, coming on and enjoying your stuff.
Now I have friends out there who have their YouTube page, their TikTok, and if you get on to mine, you can see the links to those.
Right.
So, and I want everybody to do well. We've got a great comedy community here.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. And so you're busier than anything. You're enjoying what you're doing, and sounds like everything's coming up aces so far for you.
Everything's going to. I host an open mic once a week.
Right.
Son and I are in an improv group that meets once a week.
Do you want to mention that the once a week? Go ahead and mention it.
Oh, yeah, okay. It's the Comedy Roundup
Yeah.
open mic at Cocoa Coffee in
Okay.
South Charleston, West Virginia. Starts at
Right.
and fantastic coffee.
Okay.
It's a Hemi Nest kind of place where it's just a clean, well lighted place. I love going down there.
Okay. Great. And you're doing open mics. You have open mics there in Charleston, different places.
Right, yeah. There's the one that I host. There is one the second Thursday of every month in Huntington, which is just a hop, skip,
Yeah.
away,
Right.
Black Sheep. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
uh,
go ahead.
go ahead.
All I was going to say is what we can do. I make this pact with a lot of people. What I can do is catch it back up with you in say 6 months or so, and see how you're moving along in the progress of not just Facebook, YouTube, but your stand-up career and what you got going.
Yeah, I'd love that. There's some real interesting things coming up. I'm going to be performing at the Putnam County Fair in Eleanor, West Virginia. I'm excited about that.
Okay.
I've got some out of state gigs coming up. Excited about that. So
Go ahead,
yeah,
mention them. We got a few minutes yet. Go ahead and mention them. I just want to make sure we have time for your comedy minute.
well, one's going to be not out of state, but it's a good bit away. Martinsburg, West Virginia.
I know Martinsburg. I've been to every part. I used to work for RCA Records. I've been to every part of West Virginia.
Oh,
Yeah, I told you when we started about Billy Sheehan and VSR. I know Wheeling. I know every part of West Virginia.
did you know Billy was an identical twin?
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah, his brother Bobby. Nice
Yeah,
guy. But
yeah.
yeah, Bill.
I miss Billy. Billy was a great guy.
Yeah, I really liked him. But no, there's Bricky's Comedy Club in Miamisburg, Ohio.
Okay.
I want to be there a couple times in June. I don't have the dates in front of me.
Okay.
There's Jimmy's in Beckley, West Virginia.
That's close by there too. Yeah.
Yeah, close by. I'm going to be performing there next month, and they have open mics there as well
Yeah.
every Thursday there. There's the Volstead Room in Charleston that I've been there about a half dozen times.
Yeah, I've seen your posts on Facebook about that.
Yeah, and
Great, man. I'm happy things are going so well. If you can, you know what time it is. It's time for your comedy minute.
it's time for my comedy minute.
Yes, sir.
All
Now,
right.
again, just because everybody gets hung up on this. First off, it doesn't have to be a minute. It can be longer than a minute, and it can be anything. What I prefer, is something that happened, like another life story, like the sheep, or whatever you want. Anything that when you think about it, you say, man, that's that, one of the funniest things ever happened in my life.
I
Go
have
ahead.
two. Okay.
Go
I
ahead.
have two kids, a boy and a girl.
Right.
Not a hair on my head has come from the boy. You're not a real parent unless you have a daughter because they make you earn it.
All right.
But when my daughter was about 4, I came home and she asked me, she goes, Daddy, what's a hoochie mama?
Right.
I was like, where'd you hear that from? And she's like, my grandma. I'm like, well, thank you, grandma. It's just one wears too much makeup, just a little bit trashy. Don't worry about it. Daddy needs to run Walmart. Why don't you come with me? I'll buy you a toy. And we had no more walked in the door. And she points her finger at some lady and goes, Daddy, is that a hoochie mama? I want it to be Jenny from Forrest Gump. Dear Lord, to me the bird so I can fly far, far, far away from here. My son's not an angel either, I mean, he's a great kid, but I went out to get the mail, came back in. He's about 3. I'm seeing crayon marks all over the wall.
Right.
So I get the Mr. Clean magic eraser and a pail of water, and I'm scrubbing. And he comes in and goes, Daddy, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm having to clean the wall because some little boy colored all over it.
Right.
Looks at me and he goes, huh, how'd he get in here? When he was born, they were playing Jimmy Buffett's greatest hits in the delivery room. And I don't know if that affected his personality or not. But one hell of a margarita.
Oh man.
They say alcoholism runs in my family. I don't
Yeah.
believe it. Nobody in my friends.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, I thank you so much for being here. Again, I hate to cut it short, but we had a little technical difficulties in the beginning. So thank you very much, Slack Daddy. And as I said, what I'll do is I'll catch back up with you in a few months. And just hang tight for a second. I'm going to stop the recording. We can talk a little bit off the air, okay?
Sounds good.
Thank you very much again for being here. I had a great time.
Hey, I had a fantastic time. Thank you.
It was my pleasure. You still there?
Yes.
Okay.